Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Josh Black, a senior concept artist at Stoke Games. Plus, I teach figure drawing and anatomy online here on my YouTube channel and also on Proco and my Gumroad, where you can find my tutorials, brush packs, and ebooks. Today, I wanted to do a quick video on the importance of warming up by doing these little doodle exercises that you see me doing right now, plus the importance of doing quick gestures to help you warm up for the longer sustained gestures and poses, such as doing just simple 1 to 2 minute gestures before diving into the 5 to 10 minute ones. So right now I'm just doing some simple shape and line exercises to loosen up my wrist, warm up my wrist, and also my hand-eye coordination. So you see I'm just drawing a lot of circles, a lot of kind of curved lines that feed into each other. Kind of helps you think more of rhythmic lines, organic lines. And after I do that, I'll do like a series of circles, drawing with my shoulder. You can see I have quite a bit more control with my shoulder to get fairly decent circles and ellipses. I'm going to draw some ellipses, some cylinders here, maybe some cones. I can do some spheres, meaning I'm just making those circles three-dimensional. Give them some topology. And some boxes. Oops. Too many lines there. You can see I'm adding these topology lines, treating it as if it's 3D modeling where you have vertices and edge loops. This exercise really helps you really transition from seeing your canvas as a two-dimensional surface to seeing it as a three-dimensional surface. And that is critical, especially if you're going to become a concept artist or an illustrator. The ability to see and draw through the form and visualize it conceptually in 3 dimension as opposed to just 2 dimension. An example that would be if I were to draw just a triangle like this. It's very flat, very graphic, doesn't have any dimension to it, but if I draw a 3 dimensional kind of pyramid shape, drawing through the form, then I can add the edge loops around it. Then my mind's really thinking about the 3 dimensional volume of that shape. Okay, so I think with that, we're probably ready to go ahead and dive into some of those 1 minute gestures I was talking about. And really, so with these gestures, we're mostly just going to focus on very basic shapes, block out rhythms, and maybe we'll do like some cylinder figures as well. Again, to help us think of the figure in 2 dimension. All right, so let's save this real quick. Alright, so we're going to start doing those 1 minute gestures. I'm going to show you what timer tool I'm using. I'm going to use the one that's on proco.com/timer. This is a great resource. It has a huge depository of fantastic figurative reference bundles from Proco, but also lots of other companies that also sell their reference bundles on this website, and all of them are very like high resolution, very dynamic poses, and lots of different models. It's it allows you to choose how many figure drawings you want to do per session, and for how long. I would show you it's on here up on the right, but if I scroll up, I might run the risk of showing some nude figures, which I don't want to do since this is on YouTube. But I'm going to select that, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. I also wanted to let you know I have my tutorials here that are also on sale for 20% off. My anatomy toolkit and also my in-depth head painting tutorial. Check that out if you're interested. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into these 1 minute gestures. I'm going to pull this up to my other screen. Alright, so really we just want to focus on the overall rhythms, not so much on the volumes. So right now I'm getting kind of the torso line, the basic directions and rhythms of the arms. I have the hips that flow down into that leg there. And just very abstractly get the other leg, base of the crotch. Let's get the pit of the neck. Just do little circles to represent the mass of the hands. So everything is very quick, very abstract, and simplified. Get that out of the way, start the next one. And you'll notice when you first start doing these, they're not going to be fantastic. That's okay. These really aren't to show off. These are just to help you warm up. The great thing about doing these, it gets your mind out of the habit of honing in on little details and getting tunnel vision too soon. It helps you see more of the overall statement of the full figure that you're drawing. So shrink that guy down. Again, this is just 1 minute, so you don't have a whole lot of time. So you really just want to focus on those big sweeping statements and try to use more abstract curves, shapes, and straights to quickly represent as much as you can. Pull that leg down. Okay. Move on to the next one. I find these more straight-on poses are definitely more difficult to do, especially when you have this limited amount of time, but we're going to go for it anyway. Get the torso. Just do some simple circles for the shoulder joints. Some simple tapering lines for the arms. Simple mass for the hips. And also simple tapering lines for the legs. This one's a bit more curved. Okay. Moving on to the next one. And really, what's nice about doing this too is once you start adding more time, you're going to feel like you have a lot more time on your hands. And you'll be more loosened up, and hopefully your kind of hand-eye coordination will be at a point where you can be much more accurate with your line placement. I'll shrink that, move on to the next one. I think we'll just do a couple more of these 1 minute, and then we'll move on to 2 minutes. Getting that C curve or midline of the torso. And it's always nice to kind of get those directional lines for the limbs to be a little more curved. It gives your gesture more energy and prevents it from feeling too stiff. So you can see there's actually more of a S curve with the torso here because it's twisting. You can see the tilt of the pelvis there. We'll just get the curved tapering lines of that front leg. And fortunately we didn't get too far on that one. Alright, I think this will be the last 1 minute, and then we'll switch over to 2. Let's see how I'm really trying to just use sweeping rhythmic lines to describe as much as I can with that limited amount of time. I'm not vacillating on, one little area of the figure. I'm trying to go head to toe. Within that 1 minute. Alright, so now we'll move on to the 2 minutes. But before we do so, I just wanted to kind of briefly go over what we've done here. And um, so as you can see, everything's very kind of abstract, very loose. Really just trying to get as much down within that 1 minute as possible. Hopefully getting the whole figure down head to toe. And they're not very pretty. Honestly, they're not the best drawings. I wouldn't like really show these online. This is mostly for yourself, so you can really loosen up. And again, just think of the figure holistically is really kind of the point. And now as we move into 2 minutes, we can really start adding a little more form and detail to these figures. So let's save it and we'll move on to those 2 minute poses. Okay, so before we start these 2 minute gestures, I'm going to shrink these 1 minute poses, get them out of the way. Sorry, my Photoshop is struggling here, lagging a little bit. Okay, there we go. So now that those are out of the way, we can get started. And with these poses, I'm going to try to leave the reference, put the reference up on the top left of the screen here so you can follow along if you'd like. Again, we're going to approach these similar to how we approached the 1 minute poses, really focusing just on the big statements, initially trying to get to head to toe, and then since we have more time, we'll be able to go back in and start kind of defining some of the forms and adding a little bit of anatomy. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so just do a blocking the cranium, the neck, the gesture of that arm there, and get the overall shape of the torso. We do a little circle, indicate the shoulder. Getting the wrapping lines to indicate the bathing suit. And you can see the leg in the back runs all the way down to the floor following that curve. So indicate that, and then this other leg has its own curve. Get the ball of the ankle there. Get the calf. I just kind of do those egg shapes to indicate mass of the calves. Chest. Okay, so I mean, you can see the 2 minutes we didn't get terribly far, but we at least indicated some of the main masses and directions of the figure and kind of this primary line of action from head to toe there. So move on to the next one. Alright, same thing. Block out the cranium, that neck. We'll go ahead and just do a simple tapering shape for the arm. And block out the overall shape and gesture of that torso. Indicate the chest line. Shrink that down a little bit. Then we have this nice curve that flows into the leg there. It flows all the way down to the ground. The bent leg wrapping around the stick. It's actually hooked on to the stick there, the staff. His hands resting on the staff there. So I want to indicate that staff, have it come all the way down to the ground. Define that midline of the torso. We can just get the mass of the calf. Indicate that shoulder. And then just like indication of the elbow there. So again, you see it. We're keeping it very simple. We're starting to get some of the masses in there, and really just trying to make sure we're getting those overall rhythms or lines of action that come sweeping through the figure. And we're again still trying to think of the figure holistically in this very loose gestural approach. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. Get this out of the way. Alright, let's actually save it real quick so we don't lose the video. Okay, so this will be our last 2-minute pose. And we'll start off with mask of the cranium, facial shield, and I'm just going to do a simple tapering shape for his arm there. It kind of ends with his fist. Just do a little circle, indicate that, and now we'll get the overall shape of his torso. Get the mass of his pelvis, the mass of his rib cage. Get that arm in the back, lats. Indicate the bathing suit. Move his cranium up a bit. There's the base of his obliques. Get that back leg. Just do a simple wedge for the feet there. Just do a little egg shape for the mass of his calf. And now look at the angle of the knees there. So find the lower leg on the foot that's closest to us. Okay, we don't have much time left, but I'm just going to indicate some of these areas of overlap. Indicate his shoulder blade here. Mass of his shoulder. Just a little egg shape for his ear. Core. Indicate the lats. His fist. Just gonna get that elbow. Um, yeah, as you can see, we actually got a good amount there. I'm gonna just darken that a little bit so you can see it better. But for 2 minutes, I think that's pretty good. We kind of have the overall lines of action, the main statements there, and we managed to get a little bit of the anatomy established. And yeah, I think I feel decent about it. I think it's always nice if you have time. See how I just did these like little dark dots to kind of indicate the elbows and some of these kind of bony landmarks, even if I'm not really defining them that great. Just that little dark accent will really uh, make your gesture pop. And again, you can see I, for the most part, used slightly curved lines to indicate these legs and these arms to make it feel more dynamic. Um, but I think with that, we're ready to do one 5 minute pose. I just want to show you how much doing these warm up gestures, these 1 to 2 minute gestures, will really help you be more successful with your longer sustained poses. So we'll save this and then we'll move on to the 5 minute. Okay, so here will be our final pose. This will be for 5 minutes, and hopefully this is going to illustrate how going through these earlier exercises of quick 1 to 2 minute gestures and warm-up doodles will really help improve your longer sustained poses. So with that said, let's get started. So we'll essentially start the same way, roughing out the cranium, finding the pit of the neck. Just block out his clavicles and his shoulder line. And from there, I'm just going to find the C curve or the midline of his torso. And here I'm indicating the curve to find the flow of the infraclavicular fossa. This little dimple on both sides of the chest, indicating the hollow indentation between the shoulder and the pectoral muscles. Then I'll just do little circles to indicate the shoulders. I'll go ahead and block out the mass of the chest, block in the mass of the rib cage, and come down and find the bottom of the obliques, the love handles. Find the base of his swimsuit there, his Speedo. Get the belly button, the nipples. Kind of see it forms a triangle shape. I'm gonna go ahead and block out the shape of the abdominal shield. And just gonna get the basic gesture of that leg that he's supporting his weight on. I think the heel goes down just a little further. Actually, even more than that. I'm going to shrink this down so I can see the whole figure. I just do these little straight lines to indicate the base of the foot and do these simple wedge shapes just for the initial lay-in. And the wrists will actually line up with the base of the crotch. Now we can start flushing out some of these secondary lines, secondary shapes. There's the knee. Mass of the adductors. Mass of the calves. So there's a really nice rhythm from the ACIS. Kind of forms a big S, elongated S curve from the ACIS of the pelvis all the way down to the ankle. You can see that there. It's going to indicate the pits of the elbows here, where the bicep feeds into the forearm muscles. And there we go. There's our 5 minute pose. Um, I definitely would like to add some more detail to this. I mean, I think it was pretty good for 5 minutes. We got a lot in there. Um, I'd like to at least block in his head. So I'm going to take just another minute or so just to block in those traps. Base of his cranium. Ear shape. All right. So I think we did make him a little thicker here. So I'd probably make him a little skinnier with the transform tool. I gotta pull his head back a little bit. But yeah, I think that feels pretty good for 5 minutes. We can, again, darken it just so we can kind of see everything that we did. And maybe we'll just kind of punch those clavicles a bit more. Okay, let's go ahead and save it. See, it's really tempting to keep going when you feel like you have a decent foundation. But I'd like to kind of go over some of the discoveries I found while doing this pose, this gesture, and then we'll wrap this video up. And I really want to try doing more of these videos throughout the week, probably do 2 or 3. That's the goal. I know I've been awful at this the last few months. I've had a lot going on with my full-time job, and plus just moved about a year ago and still just getting settled in. So anyway, I really hope I can do better moving forward, and we can do at least 2 or 3 of these videos a week. But let's go ahead and save it, and then I'll go over some discoveries I had in this pose, and yeah, then we'll finish the video. Okay, so before we wrap this up, I'm going to use a dark red line, and we're just going to go over some of the discoveries here. So again, the first step, for me, I like to block out the mass of the cranium with the sphere, and then I kind of pull out the gesture of the neck muscle as it feeds down into the pit of the neck. And then usually I like to find that midline that goes right down the middle of the torso down to the base of the crotch. And then the shoulder line, find the gesture of the clavicles, and from there usually establish the rest of the neck. I kind of jump to other places, but that's usually the order I do things, and then indicating those little spheres for the tops of the shoulders. And then doing this curved line here is really helpful when defining the chest, the separation of the chest and the shoulder muscles. And again, this little furrow here is the infraclavicular fossa, and that's a nice landmark to look out for, especially when you have more muscular models like this. And again, you see I just did really simple curved tapering forms to indicate the mass and direction of those arms, and really just simple circles for the hands because I still didn't have enough time to go in there and really flesh that out. Plus, I'm also trying to teach and talk while I draw at the same time, which is never easy. Still trying to get better at that. Um, but yeah, when you're defining the male torso, like I also find it helpful to kind of envision the mass of the rib cage, and then remembering that those lats here, they actually extend beyond the width of the rib cage, and they latch on the back side of it. So I did that, and then I indicated the shape of the abdominal shield. I didn't have time to go in and get all the individual muscle packs, ab muscles. But if you just have time to get that abdominal shield in there, that will really help define the anatomy of the torso. And then, of course, uh, the chest line there, and if you can indicate the nipples as well. And I also find it really helpful that once I've established the shape of the rib cage and the base of those lats, I can pull down the shape of those lower obliques, the lower flank of the obliques. And then from there, I can kind of find the base of the crotch and really pull out the gesture of these legs. Again, I really just started with simple curves, and then I broke those up. Some really helpful rhythms to memorize that add a lot of movement to your legs, to your overall figure as well, are these S curves that start from, as I said before, the asis, which is the interior portion of the pelvis, and then that runs down through the sartorius muscle and then runs behind the leg and then flows into the blade of the tibia, and then down into the base of the foot. And you can see it on this side too. There's the asis that comes down and flows down into the sartorius, then behind the leg there flows back into the blade of the tibia and to the ground. So you can have those two S curves. And then on the outside, you can kind of break it up with some straights to complement those curves. And if you don't have time, again, just do simple wedges for your feet. The most important thing really is just getting the direction of where the foot meets the ground overall in the right in the ballpark. And then if you have time, you can go back in and really flesh out those hands and feet and all the other features. But again, everything's pretty simple. I don't have a ton of lines or rendering or anything like that, but I'm already able to define a lot of the forms and the overall gesture pretty well with 5 minutes. And yeah, I hope you've found this helpful. I'm going to keep trying to do these little drawing sessions to show you how I simplify and break down the figure and reveal more of my process here on YouTube. But if you enjoyed what you see, I wanted to remind you I do have more in-depth tutorials on Proco and Gumroad, and right now Proco is having a Black Friday sale until the 4th of December. Everything's 20% off. I'll put the link down below, so if you want to check that out, you can. That also includes all of their ref bundles, and those will be 20% off. And again, lots of great content there if you're interested. But with that said, until the next video, all right, bye.